won't start again. Just carry on. Pretend that didn't happen. Evening on. Stephen here. With the dog. My sidekick. Coming to you on this glorious summer Sunday evening from the grounds of the Beerbeard estate. Smoking the only straight pipe that I actually own. I'm a Zero Meersham legend. And in it, you guessed it, Gowith and Hogarth's Black and Brown. And enjoying a chilled libation. Cheers. Hope you're all well this evening. I've spent the day with my sister from the States and her husband Phil. It was nice to catch up, but when you don't see people that often, you sometimes run out of things to say, and you know, perhaps one day is just about enough. But it was nice to see them. Probably won't see them for many, many more years to come now. And they've packed an awful lot into their holiday. They've had a great time. Been up to Edinburgh, then travelled down the country, stopping at various places. Hadrian's Wall, York, Norfolk, and made it out to London on Friday. And I was going to do a video about something else tonight, but it's just that seeing her reminded me of something, so I thought I'd just share that instead. Let's see if we can get this to stay alight. The year is 1976. At the beginning of the year, a 20-year-old Beerbeard is still living in Bedford, a town about 40 or so miles north of London, where I've got my own flat. Now, due to misbehaviour on my part, I lost my job. And it just so happened in 1976 unemployment hit record levels, and I couldn't find anything else. Now, my sister, who now lives in the States, was at that time still living in England. In London, she lived in an area called Notting Hill, which is a place, was at the time, of pretty much slum flats. They big old Georgian houses that have been fallen into disrepair and bought up by landlords and split up into different flats. And she had a son, not by the man that she's married to and has been married to now for 40 years, but in the early 70s she was in a relationship with someone, I won't name him, but he was, during the 70s, quite a famous musician, in the 60s and 70s. And he was in a band in the 70s that achieved quite a bit of fame. And they'd had a son together, but then they'd separated, and she was, at this time, a single parent, living on her own with her son. And but she still kept in touch with people that she'd known through him in the music business, and in particular people that worked with the band, with and around the band that he was part of. Bless you. And I happened to be unemployed and I couldn't find any work. And she mentioned this to someone that she knew, who was someone that was a roadie for the band that her ex-partner was in. And it just so happened that as the band wasn't touring at that time, he was looking around for work and had got himself some roadieing work to fill in the gaps. And he said that there'd be work for me too if I wanted it. Well, it was different anyway. Different from what I was used to. I've been working for the River Board up in Bedford, clearing out rivers and flood channels. And so I decided that was it. I moved down to London. There was a promise of about a month or 6 weeks worth of work, doing some roadieing. Now, before you sort of picture anything like, you know, me roadieing for the Stones or some big famous band and, you know, going to exotic places, the job was actually for a tour that was arranged by a hair products company called Clairon, and they ran every year a national hairdressing competition in the UK. Good, eh? And what they'd do is they'd go around all these towns in the UK, and local hairdressers would enter and come in, and then they would pick people, the winners from those, and they'd all go to a grand final up in London at the end. And they would set up in these dance halls around the UK, places that we call top rank or Mecca. And people would come in and they'd pay to see, and they'd have food and drink and whatever to watch the competition, and there'd be cabaret as well. And that was the job. Roadieing for the Clairon National Hairdressing Competition. Rock and roll. The cabaret we had was it was a dance troupe, Dougie Squire's second generation, who did a very interesting number on rollerblades. And there was a band that had won a TV talent show called New Faces, and the band was called Whiskey Mac. There was a woman singer, sort of middle of the road type, cabaret type singer. And topping the bill was a guy that had been the singer in a British band of the 60s called The Move, and his name was Carl Wayne. And the whole thing was emceed by an American DJ that had made his career in Britain. I don't even know if he's still around. He gloried in the name of Emperor Roscoe. And that was my job for a month to 6 weeks. Yeah, we drove around the country. There were 3 or 4 of us, and we had to unload the vans and set up all the stage equipment, set up all the props, run out the wires, gaffer tape them all around these dance halls and whatever. And then, yeah, we actually ran also the spotlights during the shows themselves, manned the spotlights too. And then at the end of the night, when everything was all over, we then had to take it all down, load it in the van, and then we'd be on our way somewhere else. It was certainly different, like nothing I'd experienced before. I went to places that I've never been to before, and many which I've never been to since. Reading, Cardiff, Manchester, Liverpool, Sheffield, Newcastle, Glasgow, all the high spots. Spent an awful lot of time in a big van, big truck. Ate far too much fried food at far too many motorway service stops. More fried food than anyone should ever eat in any kind of period. I don't think for the whole time I saw a piece of fruit or a green vegetable. Smoked dope, of course. Had a few beers. It was all part of the rock and roll lifestyle of the Clairon hairdressing tour. And it was on that time, that tour, that I actually found out that I'd been born with a deformed spine. Never knew it up until that point. Cheers. Because the band that was playing, when we had to shift all these big stack amplifiers, reels of cable or whatever, and the band that was playing had a huge electric organ, not one of these lightweight things that you see now, but one of those big wooden framed electric organs. And there was this one time we were lifting it out of the back of the truck and my back just went, just like that. Extremely painful. And I was laid up in bed for the next few days. And in the end had to go to the doctor. And he sent me for x-rays and they found out, yeah, that I was born with a deformity at my 4th and 5th lumbar vertebrae. So it's right down the bottom of your spine basically. One of the discs, one of the vertebrae overlaps the other one, and if the disc prolapses, which it can do if you twist or anything like that, which I had done, it then traps your sciatic nerve. Bloody excruciating pain. So that's when I first found out that, yeah, I was going to have back trouble for the rest of my life. But it was an interesting time. Certainly, as I say, like nothing I'd ever done before and like nothing I've ever done since. And I'd sort of kind of forgotten about it, but I have fairly fond memories of it. Very, very hard work, but interesting. All cash in hand, of course. And the last thing that I remember about it was right at the end of the tour. Sorry, that's the dog. Oh, God. I bet Steven Spielberg doesn't have this kind of trouble, does he? Am I still there? Yeah, I think so. At the end of the tour, we all ended up in one of the hotel rooms where everyone had been put up. And there was us, the road crew, and there were the performers, or some of the performers, not the stars, obviously. But there were certainly Dougie Squire's second generation dancers. In a fairly small hotel room. Things got a bit frisky. But the thing that I remember most about it is the guy that had actually got me the job, John. He got very drunk. I mean, we all got fairly wasted, and you know, dope and booze and whatever. But he got very drunk, and for some reason he got extremely drunk on Campari. If you ever tasted Campari, to me it tastes like cough medicine. I don't get it at all. But he got drunk on Campari. To the point where he was rather ill. And the thing to remember is when we were leaving the following morning, being the road crew, of course we had to be up at the crack of dawn and setting off on the motorway ready to set up at the next place. We were sitting in the truck ready to go, and I happened to look up, and this hotel was clad in sort of white stone, and we could see the room that we'd had the party in the night before. And we knew it was that one because John had been taken rather ill. Bit of a dicky tummy after his overdose on Campari, and had just made it to the window and stuck his head out and let it go. And down this beautiful stone cladding on this hotel, there was this enormous scarlet streak, several feet long. Lovely. Maybe still there to this day. Yeah, good times in a way, you know. I was still finding my way in life. But it was money in the pocket, and that was what got me to move down to London. And here I am, 41 years later, still here. So, that was my little story for this evening. Thank you all for your kind words on yesterday's video. Especially some of you who very kindly said I could go on and on, but don't tempt me because I will. But it's nice to know, it's nice to get that feedback, that back and forth. I do try and answer all the comments. I haven't answered last night's yet, but I will sit down and do that, because that's all part of it for me. I like the interaction. Little butterfly just landed on a flower there. It's like, you know, it's like a programme with David Attenborough, isn't it? Plus beer. Hope you're well. I hope those of you that made it along to the Piper's picnic today in Regent's Park had a fantastic time. You certainly had great weather for it. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you. But maybe another time. Oh, I better cut this one off then. I hope the glare hasn't been a problem. I can't really see it too well, or see the camera too well. And I'm also sorry that my stage assistant, Ziggy, decided to adjust the camera tripod mid-film. Swine, he's just trying to get in on the act. Take care everyone, hope you're safe, well and warm, and I hope the sun is shining on you wherever you happen to be in the world. Until we speak again, bye bye.